Welcome back to Towards a Christian TTRPG, where I try to develop a TTRPG based on biblical principles because, hey, why not? So this video I'm talking about the callings. The callings are based on the fivefold ministry gifts of Ephesians 4 verses 11 and 12. So that goes, so Christ himself gave the apostles, the prophets, the evangelists, the pastors and teachers to equip his people for actions of service so that the body of Christ may be built up. Generally speaking, the ministry gifts in the Bible refer to leadership positions within the church body. These are leadership roles within the church used to help people to grow and mature. In this game, these are additional boosts to talents and attributes in order to help encourage others within a community. As shown in the verse above, there are 5 different callings. There's the apostle, the prophet, the pastor, the teacher, and the evangelist. The callings are separate from the talents and the motivations. Each of them has an affinity with certain spiritual gifts, and in addition, each of these gives a permanent upgrade to certain attributes and talents. So I'll show you what I mean. As I said, there are 5 different callings, so I put them in the same order as we usually do. They are pastoral, teaching, evangelistic, prophetic, and apostolic. A pastoral calling will add 1 extra point to each of the 3 physical talents. These are permanent points available from the beginning of character creation and don't get removed if the character suffers stress. A teaching calling will add 1 extra point to each of the 3 mental talents. Again, these are permanent increases. An evangelistic calling will add 1 extra point to each of the 3 emotional talents. A prophetic calling will add 1 extra point to each of the 3 spiritual talents. And finally, an apostolic calling is slightly different. It will add 1 extra point to 1 talent that the player chooses in each of the 4 attributes. So 1 physical, 1 mental, 1 emotional, and 1 spiritual. The reason the apostolic is different is because an apostle is able to work in each of the other areas when necessary. This is not just in the game, this is in real life. Because apostles are usually the ones going out and starting new things like churches or businesses or communities, so they need to be able to operate as a pastor sometimes, or as a teacher sometimes, as an evangelist sometimes, as a prophet sometimes. And you can see this in the book of Acts, where Paul kind of took on all of these different roles during his journey as the situation needed. It doesn't mean they excel in all of these areas, but they can operate in them if necessary, hence the distribution of points between the talents. So essentially, a calling gives you a greater level of skills in 1 attribute. The result of this is that these are a way to kind of even out a character. That is, it's a way to put sort of more dice into different areas in order to either supplement weaker areas of your character. So if you've got a D6 in that area and you want to sort of beef it up, or alternatively, you can put them all in the same place and min-max the heck out of them, be a total specialist in just one attribute. So this allows kind of a greater variety in character creation. For example, you could create a strong teacher with physical attributes as well as mental, or a wise bouncer, or other sort of combinations. So you don't have to be stuck as a specialist character. You can try and even it out and make it a bit more complex. Now, each calling also gives you extra points when rolling for certain spiritual gifts. I've decided to give each calling extra points on 3 gifts each, because I'm hoping that'll prompt players to try to use them more. When I've play tested this in the past, I gave each person, like each character, an increase in 2 gifts, but people would often forget to use them. They would often forget that they would actually had spiritual gifts, and so they would just leave them. So I'm trying to give people 3 extra emphases in 3 gifts so that they'll hopefully use them a bit more often, because that's sort of what the game is about. Now, there are 9 main gifts that people have access to, but that doesn't divide between 5 callings very easily, so some of the gifts do double up and appear twice. So this is how they work out. The pastoral calling adds 3 points when rolling for the gifts of faith, of healing, and of knowledge. The teaching calling adds 3 points when rolling for the gifts of wisdom, of knowledge, and of interpretation. The evangelistic calling adds 3 points when rolling for the gifts of tongues, of interpretation, and of miracles. The prophetic calling adds 3 points when rolling for the gifts of prophecy, of discernment, and of faith. And finally, the apostolic calling adds 3 points when rolling for the gifts of miracles, of healing, and of wisdom. Now, I'll go into more detail about what these gifts are and how they work in the next video. One of the other things I'm thinking about as well, in terms of calling, is giving each calling its own narrative arc. So this means that each one has a story beat or a number of different beats that they are called to do. And achieving these might provide some kinds of rewards for the character or something like that. For example, a pastoral narrative, one of their beats might be to save someone's life, or whatever that means, including their own, if they want to, or maybe win a conflict, or something else, or maybe all three. They can pick and choose. A teaching narrative might be to solve a puzzle, or to resolve a problem, or to gain further understanding. Again, whatever that means in the context. A prophetic narrative or calling might be to grasp a great truth, or denounce a great evil. An evangelistic narrative might be to change someone's life, either for good or bad. It all depends. An apostolic calling might be to build a community, or to lead a team, lead someone into a situation, maybe a conflict as well, or change a situation. And all these different beats, the story beats, depend on the player themselves and the situation they're in, the adventure they're in, the objective. All of these sort of things will link together to determine what these things actually look like. But they're a way of trying to generate role-play, narrative, and storytelling from the players themselves as well into the adventure. But this is not exactly something I've really decided on yet, so it's kind of still on the drawing board. Next video, I'll talk about the spiritual gifts, what they are, what they do, how they interact. If you're still watching this far into the series, then that's very much appreciated. Please hit the like and subscribe if you want to see more. Thank you again for watching.